Okay, this is the second video for those of you who are working on question 4, the comparison of language question. In the last video I showed you really the most important step, and the one that students find the most difficult, which is finding the actual language features. I showed you how to read through, and then I showed you some tricks on how to find them in source 3 and source 1. I turned that into a grid. Obviously you won't be doing this in the exam, but I did this in order to make it easier for you to do the actual analysis, to see that if you can make a grid like this really fast, like in 5 minutes, you can then get on to actually writing the answer. And now in this video I'm going to show you, we're going to write 2 answers, okay? So the structure of the answer is the first thing you've got to know. So this is how it works. Think of it in 2 paragraph cycles. In paragraph 1, paragraph 3, paragraph 5, and paragraph 7, if you're going for the 8 paragraph way of doing this, you need a topic sentence, which is going to be the device and the purpose of the device. Then you have always, in English, you need evidence and analysis of evidence. And finally, you have the effect on the reader. This can sometimes sound repetitive, so it's a bit tricky to do. Oh gosh, I wish it would stop the autofocus, but okay, here we go. In the second paragraph, you have the same as above, but here you have one more thing, okay? You have to force the comparison, because this is a comparison of language exam that also asks you to consider the effect on the reader. So all these steps are necessary when doing this, okay? So let me now go back to my first 2 paragraphs, which I'll be comparing. We're going to look at the emotive language, because remember, source 3 will always have emotive language. Source 1 will always have informational language, okay? We're going to look at this quote, grind it between my teeth. If she's grinding, if you remember source 3, it's about a woman traveling in the Mediterranean. This really shows how frustrated and physically annoyed she is. And here we know, we're told that with meat eating and vegetarianism, the population is going to be 9.2 billion people in 40 years. That is a huge number in a not very long time. That is what we're going to analyze to show what it means, what the effect of eating meat actually is on the environment. Okay, so here remind us of our structure as we're writing. We're going to so I'm going to try to keep this in multicolored to help you remember. Those of you doing the homework on this, you can use this as your first 2 paragraphs. In source 3, emotive language is used. Now I've got the device, now just what's the device doing? Is used to emphasize how the writer is feeling. Quote. I'm going to integrate the quote in describing the air. The author's name is Drink Water. Describes how she could grind it between her teeth. My teeth. got to analyze. The word grind suggests that the air was thick, but it also suggests that she is annoyed and frustrated. The effect on the reader is that they can sympathize with the writer's agitation. We don't want to repeat ourselves. Agitation, you could say annoyance, because we didn't use that before, did we? Oh, no, we did, so we don't want to say annoyance. The writer's agitation, because they can hear, they can imagine hearing the air crunch in her teeth. I don't think my effect is as good as I want it to be. But again, initially, I just want to get these ideas out, and we can talk about improving later. The key in the effect sentence is what it is that the reader feels and why. Remember that for the effect on the reader, because I should add here. Okay? That's the first source. So now we're going to do that all again for the second source, but now we need to add the comparison. So right from the start, I want to have a comparative connective. So I should have put that here. Comparison in my topic sentence. In contrast, source 1 uses statistics to depict the dangers of pollution caused by meat eaters. Okay, it's important to be specific. Some of my students aren't getting into enough of the details of what actually is in the article. It's not just enough to say the device. It's the device, what the device is trying to do, and when you're saying what the device is trying to do, you're going to talk about meat eating and vegetarianism. Quote, the article states the world population will be 9.2 billion in 40 years' time. The statistic 9.2 billion is a number that suggests world population will increase by almost half. This explosion will happen over a short period of time, a generation, all it will take, as shown by the small number 40. It is sometimes tricky to analyze numbers, but we still have to try. And the key to doing that is just understanding what the meaning is and what the writer's trying to get out of that. It's easier to squeeze a word of meaning than it is to squeeze a number. Thus, right now we got to go for the effect. Thus, the effect on the reader is shock, because we always need that because the numbers emphasize how quickly population growth will make meat consumption a major environmental issue. Okay? It's a lot of work. We're not done yet. We're not done because now we need comparison. So I'm going to go back to black to bring this comparison, and we're always doing comparison in these second paragraphs. So I suggest you start by trying to get 6 paragraphs for this question. That means in paragraph 2, in paragraph 4, and in paragraph 6, you've got to extend the comparison in your own words. Whereas in source 3, the emotive language shows us that drink water wasn't having an enjoyable journey in source 1. The statistical language helps the reader understand what eating meat will do to the environment in the long term. Now, that is a heavy 2 paragraphs, but that's what I think needs to be done in order to do this question justice. Maybe 6 paragraphs is more realistic. So again, in the first video, I talked you through how we read through source 3 and source 1. I think they're the best ones to always compare. There'll always be emotive language, there'll always be informational language, there'll always be imagery, there'll always be contrast. Contrast is a hard one. I would leave that to the end. You can find one more language device. Emotive language means there'll probably be literary language, and factual language means there'll probably be statistics, numerical information, all of that. That means, I think it's realistic to say 6. But if you're going for the A star, you should try to get 8. You don't get 8 automatically. It's not going to come right away. It comes from real practice and real diligence. It would push me to my limits too, especially writing in time. But the way you get good at this is knowing this structure for every single reading question, backwards and forwards. And then you'll be able to do that no problem.